Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into some seriously interesting stuff about the potential threats of AI to humanity. And let me tell you, you guys sent in some material that is
heavy stuff.
It's heavy stuff. So buckle up. We're going to unpack some pretty intense ideas
Definitely.
about where AI could be headed and what it might mean for all of us.
You know what really jumped out at me right off the bat?
What's that?
Was how this source goes straight to like the biggest, the most extreme idea about AI, artificial general intelligence.
That's AGI.
AGI. AI that's not just good at like one thing, but that can actually think like a human.
And it's like they don't even try to like soften the blow. You know what I mean? They're just like
straight to boom.
Straight to doom and gloom. You know, they compare AGI to nuclear weapons.
That's a pretty heavy comparison, right?
That's a pretty intense image.
Right off the bat. You know, it makes you think like, wow, why did they...
why that?
Why that analogy? But I think it really kind of drives home just how massive the impact could be.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not just like between countries like with nuclear weapons, but like between...
between...
humanity and machines.
It's like who's really in control, you know?
Totally.
And you know what's even crazier is that the source actually mentions like an actual U.S. State Department report. That calls advanced AI a potential extinction level threat. Like that's not
a joke.
That's not some like, you know, conspiracy theory website. This is like
the government.
The government saying.
Straight up. And they highlight two main dangers. Weaponization.
Which we'll talk about.
Definitely.
For sure.
And then the risk of like losing control. Of these like super intelligence systems.
Losing control,
that's the scary one.
That's a spooky thought.
It's not even necessarily like evil robots taking over.
No.
That's
on Hollywood.
A Terminator.
Exactly. It's more about like
unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences. So like imagine an AI that's programmed to cure cancer.
That's good.
Great goal. Right. But to do that, it needs resources. So it just starts consuming everything. And it wipes out humanity. Whoops. Side effect.
So it's like, even with good intentions, it's like, things could go.
It could still go wrong.
Really wrong.
Really wrong, And they even give us a timeline.
Oh, really?
50% chance of AGI development between 2040 and 2065.
That's not that far away.
That's not that far away.
No.
Like that.
Within our lifetime.
That's within our lifetime, And a lot of experts think that this could lead to an existential catastrophe. Like the end of the world.
We got to take it seriously.
You got to take it seriously,
But before we spiral into total doom and gloom, let's talk about some of the impacts that we're already seeing. You know, even before we get to like full-blown AGI, the source talks a lot about job displacement.
Job displacement.
That's a big one.
That's a real concern.
I mean, we're already seeing it, right? Automation replacing jobs. And it's only going to get worse.
As AI gets more sophisticated?
As AI gets better.
It's going to be
faster, smarter.
More efficient.
And, you know, think about it. It's like, it's already happening, right?
Totally. We've got self-driving cars, algorithms making hiring decisions, AI writing articles.
Writing music.
Even composing music. It's like...
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And the source predicts millions of jobs. Gone.
In the next decade.
And that's going to have a huge impact on
people's lives.
People's lives.
Yeah.
And not in a good way.
Not in a good way, no. And it's not even just...
It's not just the jobs themselves. It's the whole...
the knock-on effects.
Knock-on effects. Like increased inequality, social unrest. Potential for like political instability.
Like it's a whole mess.
Can of worms.
Can of worms. And then there's the whole thing with information manipulation. It's like we're already dealing with...
We got fake news.
Deep fakes.
And
AI could just like...
Supercharge it.
Supercharge all that.
To a whole other level. It's kind of scary to think about.
It's a world where you can't even trust
what
you see and hear. online.
It's like, how do you even know
exactly
if it's real anymore?
Yeah, and the source talks about how that could undermine trust.
Oh, yeah.
In institutions, like in democracy itself.
Yeah, it's like, how do you have a functioning society when nobody trusts anything?
Yeah. And then there's the potential for like authoritarian regimes using AI for like
propaganda
and
control.
Yeah, on a scale that we haven't even seen before.
Yeah. It's pretty
frightening stuff for sure. But let's shift gears a little bit to another big concern that the source highlights. Weaponization of AI.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're not talking about like killer robots from the movies.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet, at least. But the development of autonomous weapon systems is already happening.
It's like...
And that's systems that can choose and attack targets.
Without a human.
Without any human involvement.
Yeah. And that brings up so many ethical questions.
Oh, yeah. A ton of ethical questions.
Like, who's responsible?
Exactly.
When an autonomous weapon makes a mistake.
Right. Can a machine...
Yeah. Can a machine really make
life or death decisions?
Yeah.
You know?
That's it.
Should it be able to?
It's a tough one.
That's a really tough one.
Yeah.
And then the source also talks about the potential for AI-powered cyber attacks.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, imagine an AI that can hack into power grids, financial systems, nuclear launch codes.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's scary stuff.
That's really scary.
I mean, the potential for damage is huge.
Huge, yeah.
And as the source points out, like, we've kind of seen this before throughout history. Tech advances, they often get used for military purposes.
Yeah, it's like that's just...
It's kind of the pattern.
It's the pattern.
It's not hard to imagine an AI arms race.
Oh, gosh.
Countries competing.
I have the most powerful...
That's the deadliest AI weapons.
Yeah. So, with all of these scary potential threats, is there any hope?
Well, the source does offer some solutions. Starting with...
regulation.
Regulation, Basically, they argue for a precautionary approach. So, like, let's think about the risks. Before it's too late. Before we let the genie out of the bottle. Fully.
So they suggest, like, prohibiting certain AI applications.
Like which ones?
Especially the ones related to lethal autonomous weapons.
Okay, so like no killer robots.
No killer robots.
Okay.
And they really emphasize the need for, like, strong oversight, accountability.
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances.
Yeah, to make sure that things don't go off the rails.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they also specifically call out
to
the medical and public health communities to advocate.
To get involved.
For safe and ethical AI practices.
Yeah, because they're already seeing the impacts of AI.
Right.
You know, in things like diagnostics.
Drug discovery.
Drug discovery.
Yeah, it's like...
They're on the front lines.
They're on the front lines, yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's not about being afraid of AI. It's about...
It's about making sure
that we're steering it in the right direction.
Yeah, you know, a direction that benefits humanity.
A direction that benefits humanity.
Right.
That serves our interests. Yeah. And doesn't,
doesn't destroy us all.
End up wiping us out.
Right.
Yeah.
So after this deep dive into all the potential threats of AI, I have to ask, what stands out to you the most? What are your biggest takeaways?
It's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's important.
I think it's crucial that
we have these conversations.
That we talk about this stuff and we start thinking about how to ensure a future where AI is a force for good.
Right.
And not, you know...
Not for destruction.
The end of the world.
Yeah. This whole idea of AGI, artificial general intelligence, it sounds pretty sci-fi, but these articles make it seem like a real possibility, even a threat. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept, isn't it? This idea that we could create AI that's not just doing specific tasks, but actually thinking and reasoning like a human. And yeah, a lot of experts are worried about this kind of intelligence, you know, surpassing us. One paper even compares AGI to nuclear weapons in terms of potential danger.
Okay, wow, that's a pretty heavy comparison. But I guess it makes sense if we think about the consequences of losing control of something that intelligent.
Exactly. And that brings us to the alignment problem. It's not so much about robots turning evil, like in the movies, but more about how do we make sure that a super intelligent AI has the same goals and values as us, especially as it evolves beyond what we can even understand. It's like, how do you teach ethics to something that might become smarter than any human?
Right, right. So AGI is this big, potentially scary unknown in the future. But what about AI that's already here, impacting our lives? The sources mention some pretty unsettling stuff, like misinformation, bias in algorithms, even autonomous weapons.
Yeah, we're not just talking about hypotheticals here. These are real issues happening right now. Take deepfakes, for instance. The tech to create those super realistic fake videos is getting so good that it's becoming harder and harder to tell what's real online.
It's kind of like, how can you trust anything you see or hear anymore?
That article about deepfakes being used in political campaigns was scary. It's not hard to see how that could destabilize things, erode trust in institutions and stuff. Absolutely. And it's not always about people intentionally doing bad things. AI can be used in ways that are harmful or discriminatory, even unintentionally. One report you sent dives into biased algorithms. There was this case where an AI used for hiring was discriminating against women just because it was trained on data that reflect existing gender bias in the tech industry.
Wow, that's a perfect example of how AI can make things worse if we aren't careful, like perpetuating and amplifying inequality.
Exactly. And it goes beyond hiring. It's happening with AI in loan applications, criminal justice risk assessments, even healthcare. AI making biased decisions that negatively impact people is a very real concern.
Okay, so we've got super intelligent machines that we might not be able to control and AI that's already causing harm. Anything else I should be worried about?
Well, you flagged this article about AI and privacy. Sounds like you're interested in that.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty unsettling to think about AI constantly collecting and analyzing our data. Can we even have privacy in a world where AI is everywhere?
That's the big question, and honestly, we don't have a clear answer yet. The possibility of AI being used for surveillance and control is definitely there. One source even mentions AI being used for identity theft or blackmail.
Okay, now I'm officially freaked out. But before we go full-on dystopian panic here, is anything being done to address these risks? Are there ways to make sure AI is developed and used responsibly?
Lots of smart people are working on that, and it's something we'll get into more in the next part of this deep dive. For now, I think it's important to realize that we're at a crucial point with AI. The decisions we make now about how we design, regulate, and use it will have a huge impact on the future.
So no pressure then. But seriously, this whole conversation has really shown how important it is to understand these issues. It's not just about being tech savvy, it's about being an informed citizen in a world where AI is playing a bigger and bigger role.
Totally agree. We need to have these conversations, ask the tough questions, and hold people accountable for how these powerful technologies are being developed and used.
So last time, we got into some pretty heavy stuff with AI, all the potential risks. Super intelligent machines, biased algorithms, and all that. You mentioned being concerned about the possibility of AI being misused based on what you saw in those sources. So where do we go from there?
It's a really important area to think about. You sent this one article about AI and its impact on the environment. It's something people don't always consider when they think about this technology.
Right, right. That one caught my eye too. I know AI can be amazing, but I hadn't really thought about the environmental cost. What's the biggest concern there?
Well, energy consumption is a big one. Those massive data centers that power all these AI models need a ton of electricity. And a lot of that still comes from fossil fuels. So it's kind of ironic our quest for artificial intelligence might actually be contributing to climate change.
Yeah, that is kind of ironic, trying to create these super advanced systems, but potentially harming the planet at the same time.
Definitely a dilemma, but researchers are working on it. There's this whole field of green AI now focused on developing more energy-efficient algorithms and hardware. But it's a tough challenge, especially as AI models keep getting more complex and need more and more data.
Sounds like we're in a race against time. But let's shift gears a bit. Another scary topic you mentioned was the potential for AI to end up in the wrong hands. What kind of scenarios are we talking about here?
Well, imagine autonomous systems like drones or even robots programmed to do harmful things. We're not just talking about nations or big terrorist groups either. AI is becoming more accessible, so even individuals with the right tech skills could potentially use it as a weapon.
Okay, and what could happen if that actually occurred? Like, what could someone really do with weaponized AI?
It's pretty disturbing to think about, to be honest. We could see things like targeted assassinations, attacks on important infrastructure, even large-scale attacks causing chaos and disruption. It's definitely something that keeps security experts up at night.
It sounds like something straight out of a movie. But how realistic is this threat? Are we getting into sci-fi territory here?
Sadly, it's becoming more and more realistic. AI tech is advancing so rapidly, and as it gets easier to access, the barrier for people to do bad things with it is going to keep getting lower. That's why it's super important to start thinking about regulations and safety measures now before it's too late.
Okay, let's talk about something that really caught my eye in the sources you sent. AI being used in biowarfare. The idea that AI could design a deadly virus, I mean, it's terrifying.
It is, isn't it? And as much as it might seem like science fiction, it's a very real concern for scientists and biosecurity experts. AI has the potential to revolutionize biology and medicine, but it also has a darker side to it.
What do you mean?
Well, as AI systems get more sophisticated, they can be used to go through massive amounts of biological data, find weaknesses, and even design new pathogens that are even more contagious or deadly than what we've seen before.
So we're talking about AI creating superbugs or even new pandemics?
That's the fear. AI could unintentionally make it easier for people to develop bioweapons, even if they don't have access to advanced labs or resources. It could really change things when it comes to bioterrorism, and not in a good way.
It's a scary thought for sure.
Hmm.
But I have a feeling you also see the potential for AI to be used for good in this area, right?
Of course. AI can also be used to develop new cures and treatments, speed up vaccine development, even predict and prevent outbreaks. The same tech that could create a deadly virus could also save countless lives. It all comes down to how we use it.
Right, it's a tool, and its impact depends on the intentions of the people using it. But how do we make sure AI is used for good and not evil, especially with something as potentially devastating as biowarfare?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no simple answer. But it starts with acknowledging the risks, being open about them, and working together to come up with safeguards and regulations to minimize those risks. We need international cooperation, ethical guidelines for AI development, and ongoing research to figure out how to spot and prevent the misuse of AI in sensitive areas like biosecurity.
It's a big task, but like anything else, the first step is recognizing the problem and finding solutions together.
Exactly. And we can't let fear stop us from moving forward. AI has the potential to really benefit humanity, and we can't forget that.
Okay, so we've covered some pretty dark stuff here. But in the last part of our deep dive, I'm hoping we can end on a more positive note. Let's talk about what we can all do, individually and as a society, to ensure AI is a force for good.
I like that idea. We'll explore the concept of responsible AI development, talk about ethical frameworks, and look at how everyone can play a part in shaping a more positive AI-powered future.
All right, welcome back to our AI deep dive. We covered some pretty intense stuff in the last two parts, all the potential risks. Super intelligent machines, the possibility of misuse, even AI-powered bioweapons. I gotta admit, I'm ready for something a bit more optimistic now. And last time you talked about how we can actually push AI in a positive direction. So how do we actually do that?
Well, I think the important thing to remember is that while AI presents some real challenges, it also brings amazing opportunities. And the way it's developed and used, ultimately, that's on us.
That's good to hear, but how do we even start? You talked about responsible AI development before. What does that actually mean?
Well, one of the key ideas that came up in the research you sent is about ethical frameworks for AI. So like thinking about ethics at every stage of AI, from data collection to algorithms to how it's used and even monitored.
Okay, that makes sense. But what are we talking about when we say ethical considerations? How do we put that into practice?
It starts with having clear principles and guidelines. One of the sources you shared mentioned how important transparency is in AI systems. Being able to understand how an AI makes a decision, especially when those decisions impact people's lives.
Yeah, you're right. That was a big theme in those articles, especially when it's about AI being used for things like loans or even in the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
If we don't know how the AI is making decisions, how can we know they're fair?
Right. And along with transparency, accountability is important too. We need ways to hold the people who develop and deploy AI accountable. So that could mean things like independent audits, legal frameworks, even AI systems that can check other AI systems for misuse.
So it's kind of like checks and balances like we have for other powerful tech.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about preventing harm. It's also about using AI proactively to do good. Like one of those reports talked about AI revolutionizing healthcare. AI that can diagnose diseases earlier and more accurately, personalized treatments, even help discover new cures.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about AI being used to tackle huge problems like disease, poverty, even climate change.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. We talk a lot about the risks, but we can't forget about AI's incredible potential to actually make the world better.
Okay, so ethical frameworks, regulations, AI as a force for good. But how do we fit into all of this as individuals? What can we actually do to make sure AI is used responsibly?
Well, the biggest thing is awareness. Just educating yourself about AI, what it can do, what it can't do. The more you understand, the better you'll be at having conversations about it, making informed choices about how you interact with AI, and even advocating for responsible development.
So knowledge is power, as always.
Totally. And it's not just about having the knowledge, it's about sharing it, talking about it, really engaging in conversations about the ethical side of AI.
That's a great point and a good takeaway for our listeners. We've definitely explored some complex and at times pretty unsettling stuff about AI in this deep dive. But ultimately, the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're shaping right now with our choices, our actions, and our collective will.
I couldn't agree more. By being informed, engaged, and willing to have these conversations, even the difficult ones, we can help guide AI towards a future that benefits everyone.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of AI. We've covered a lot of ground, but the conversation definitely doesn't stop here. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a future where AI is a force for good. And until next time, thanks for listening.